Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yamunatira Dadai Swapadantikam Deha Shri Guru Srita Padakaman Shri Gosavamba Evam Janmani Karmani Yakatu Rajanyasya Cha Vanayanti Smakavayo Veda Bhuyani Ripate. The word is he. So he, I is vowel, and a is also vowel. So hiya, hiya, yakartur ajanasya cha. Yeah, we bring them together. Yeah, not he akartur, yeah, yakartur, like that. Together, they combine. Yeah, yes, yeah. So yes, so in other words, we don't say we combine hy with a. Yeah, yeah. Activities. He certainly akartuhu of the inactive ajanasya of the unborn kabayaha in the heart and purport by his divine grace Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Activities of the unborn and inactive, which is unborn to me, and inactive of both the Lord and the living entities are essentially all spiritual. Therefore, both of them are eternal, and neither of them has birth and death. The difference is that the so-called birth and disappearance of the Lord, and then again accept death, are bound by the laws of nature. But the so appearance and disappearance of the Lord are not actions of material nature, but are demonstrations for it. They are described by the great sages for the purpose of self-realization. It is stated in the Bhagavad-Gita by the Lord that his so-called birth in the material world and his activities are all transcendental, can attain realization of Brahman and thus become liberated from material bodies. It is said that the birthless appears to take birth. The Supreme has nothing to do, but because he is omnipotent, everything is performed by him naturally, as if done automatically. As a matter of fact, the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his different activities are all confident even to the Vedic literatures. Yet they are displayed by the Lord to bestow mercy upon the controls. We should always take advantage of the actions of the activities of the Lord, which are meditations on Brahman in the most convenient and palatable form. This, we'll have to come back to this last sentence here. Meditation on the Lord helps us to meditate on Brahman. Translation again. Thus, learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart. So Srila Prabhupada begins to explain in the purpose that we are also God, Li, not God, but we are godly. What does it mean to be godly? Huh? Like God. And what is God like? Huh? Very, very, very small bird. Huh? Very small God. Very small God. We are godly. What is the uh, common analogy or example how to understand that we are godly? Actually, in the beginning of the purport, Prabhupada explains, God is eternal and doesn't take birth because he's eternal. Doesn't have to take birth, right? He's eternal. And also, living entity, we, the Jiva, we are also eternal. Normally, we would not have to take birth, but there is a difference. Actually, the Lord also doesn't take birth because he's eternal, but he does in a very unusual and mysterious way, he does take birth. He does appear. Uh, he has, uh, he performs, um, he performs his eternal pastimes in the spiritual world. But out of his causeless mercy, he also performs pastimes in the material world. Why does he perform pastimes in the material world? Because or the governor, they will go and visit the prison house. They have no business. They have no business going to the prison house, and less intelligent people who are in the prison, when they see the governor coming, they may say, oh, he's just like us. He's a prisoner also. No. Governor has some reason to visit um, the prison house. Sometimes he will show some special mercy or forgive some particular offender. So, in a similar way, the Lord also, although he has no business in the material world, uh, he does come, as it is explained. What are the three main reasons why the Lord comes in the material world? He has three main reasons: to protect devotees, to re-establish dharma, and to kill demons. Yes. Um, and which is the most important activity? Protecting devotees. Yes. To give association to his devotees. Uh, to give them an opportunity to awaken their Krishna consciousness and to engage in devotional service. So, so this is one of the 10 Tatwas. This is one of the 10 Tatwas that is described by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Hmm? What is Tattva? Tattva means truth. Tattva. Tattva means actually the absolute truth. So one of the tattvas, as described by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is that the jiva uh, is, there are four, what are the four characteristics described describing the jiva, the jivatma? First is that the jiva is amsha, not God, but godly. So, Mamevangsho Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, eternal, part and parcel of Krishna. But because we are small, we are particle, like the sun rays. Sun ray is a particle of the sun. Not sun ray is like sunlight. Yeah. So Anksha. In two means, but the Jiv. Means who come in the material world, they Nitya Baddha. And those living entities who don't come in the material world, they are known as Mukta Jiv or Nitya Siddha, isn't it? So in this way, these are three: Anksha, Nitya Baddha, Nitya Siddha. And then the fourth, which is being referred to here, living entity is Veda Abeda. Veda means the same quality, same quality as the Lord. The Lord is fully spiritual. The Jiva, living entity, also is fully spiritual. But because he's very small, when that living entity comes in the material world, immediately becomes covered and conditioned by the modes of material nature. But when Krishna comes, because he's very big, because he is the one who created the material energy, when he comes, like when the governor goes in the prison house, he's not under the rules of the prison house. That the prisoners have to follow all the rules, but the governor, when he visits, he doesn't have to follow all the rules because he has created the prison house. He can he can contradict the rules. So Veda, Veda, we are the same as God. We say qualitatively in quality, but we are different from God quantitatively in quantity. He is the big God, and we are the small God. Uh, he is the Maha Ishvara. Bhoktaram Jagyatapasam Sadhaloka Maheshwaram. He is the Maheshwara, the Maha Ishvara. Maha Ishvara means supreme controller. Ishvara. Yeah. We are also Ishvara. One who is the head of the company, he is Ishvara of his company. One who is the teacher of school, he is the Ishvara in his class. One who is in householder life, the husband is supposed to be Ishvara of the family. Nowadays it's different. So Krishna, he is the Maha Ishvara. We are the very tiny Ishvara. Actually, we're not really Ishvara. Bhagavad-Gita describes the living entity as how does Krishna describe the living entity? Prabhupada explains about five tatwas. What are the five tatwas of the Bhagavad Gita? Then the Jiva, time, karma, then prakriti, two types of prakriti. Then material nature, like this microphone, that is inert. We say dead matter. Matter cannot do anything. This body is matter. It is doing something because inside there is the like very fundamental and basic only by knowing them, by understanding them, we can begin to appreciate who the Lord is. And here it's also mentioned that actually even the Lord can only be understood by very learned persons. And even many so-called learned persons cannot so easily understand. So, yeah. Here the verse is describing how learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undescribable even in the Vedic literatures. This is by who? By Lord Brahma. Smita? What is that verse? Advaitam Achyutam Anadyam Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham navayovanam cha vedeshu durlabham. Yeah, Govindam Adipurusham. So Vedesi durlabham, very rare and very difficult. Vedeshu durlabham, to understand Vedic literature, to understand Vedas, Vedic literatures give us especially knowledge about spiritual subject matter. So to understand who the Lord is, this is nicely being explained here in the text and also in the purport, is very difficult. Even what Krishna explains to Arjuna is not so easy to understand. Krishna is telling Arjuna that I am revealing to you the topmost knowledge, not so easily understand transcendence. At least we cannot with our ordinary. If one reads the Vedic literatures, that is not the way to understand about God. One can only understand about God if one, what is the way to understand about God? Because so many people read Vedic literatures. That that point is being made by Lord Brahma. Vedeshu durlabham. To understand Vedas, to understand about God, is very, very difficult. Most people actually cannot. So then how to understand? Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto. When one becomes a devotee, uh, how how is it possible for someone to understand about God by being a devotee? You're all devotees. To become a devotee means to approach the subject matter, as Krishna advises in the Bhagavad-Gita. What is the first prerequisite? What is the first criteria to come to this tattva-darshan? Huh? Surrender, yes. What is that called in Sanskrit? Be humble. To be humble means to accept, to understand that I don't know everything. So, devotee means one who adopts or accepts this process. Only someone who is humble will accept a superior authority. Nowadays, in modern day society, people don't like the word authority. Because why they don't like authority? There's two reasons, at least two. Why do people don't like authority? Ahankar. Huh? Yeah, that is one reason actually. Because they have false ego, because they are proud, because they're not humble. They don't, um, one likes the idea of being inferior, because the natural tendency is that we are better than other people. So that is one reason, yeah, because of us and our ahankar. Another reason, what's the other reason why most people don't accept authority? Because many of the authorities existing in Kali Yuga are not really authorities. Because Kali Yuga is full of unqualified people, uh, unqualified leaders, both within the material realm as well as the spiritual realm. And therefore, we can only understand how to correct these two problems. The first problem is that we have this ahankar, as you mentioned. We are not by nature. When one is caught up or under the gunas, the modes of material nature, he is not so easily coming to the position of being humble. But that is a, yeah, that is a prerequisite to come to that understanding that we cannot do things or we cannot understand things simply by ourselves. We need the help or the assistance and the guidance of qualified superior persons, people in authority. That's what happened actually. I mean, always changes taking place every single moment of the day actually, but there are certain historical events that bring about major changes even today. In the Vedic culture, we are being taught that is important, not only important but necessary. It's like God is authority. If we don't accept the authority of God, then we will do as we want and we will create all kinds of difficulties for ourselves and for others, isn't it? Because the concept of God is that 100 years ago, rejecting or the standard. Um, it's amazing how even though we are in Kali Yuga, and like 200 years ago is still quite recent, and Kali Yuga started, as we know, 5,000 years ago. So there were still very strong remnants of the Vedic culture, even up to a few hundred years ago, in two ways especially. One was that the authorities of the day, those who were considered uh, in knowledge and therefore in authority, were the religious people. At that time, mostly Christianity. In Europe, a few hundred years ago, uh, there was nothing very much going on in America. America had not been discovered yet, or had just recently been discovered. America, North America, um, was discovered just a few hundred years ago, isn't it? So the so-called advanced civilization that we read, and humanity was years, has been very prominent. But that, just like in the Vedic culture, we give special importance. A leader is one. Those are leaders. And if you're not a leader, what are you? You're, if you're not a leader, if you don't lead, you're supposed to follow. Yeah. When Sudama Vipra eyes transcendental of the Lord, uh, hidden or difficult or the material mm, ways of conducting our lives. For example, how we cultivate the land, how to do agriculture, or what is the real science of economics. Qualified kshatriya describe the births and activities of the unborn. When they were asked their first question.